If you don't want to play with me, I don't want to play with you either. This is what I tell my kids. When they come to me and they're like, oh, mom, I wanted to play with this child at school. They didn't want to play with me. I just go like, how many more kids are in the class? And they're like, there's loads of them. That's one down. Move on to the next child. When you're in a relationship and giving value, you need to get value back. It's as simple as that. It's supposed to be a mutual thing. So if you don't want to play with me, then that's it. Give me an amen. Hello, my loves. Welcome or welcome back. It's Era here, Mrs. A. If you're new to my channel, we talk about everything becoming the best version of ourselves. If you want to be treated like a 5-star experience, you need to be seen as one. The first thing I want to talk about is knowing your worth. We all know how we want to be treated, but we don't always recognize and stick with the people who want to treat us right. It is crucial to find those who genuinely appreciate you and avoid those who need convincing. People will only treat you exceptionally well if they see you to be worthy of that treatment. So let's move on to look at the categories of women and see the treatment that we get from men. There are typically 2 to 3 categories men place women into. The first one is the wife material, good enough, and the good time woman. However, there are 5 distinct categories that can help you understand how a man sees you and whether you're getting the treatment that you truly desire. Number 1, the desperate girl, the good time girl, the good enough girl, the dream girl, and number 5, the out of the league girl. Today, I'm going to focus on the desperate girl. This category is the saddest. These women give everything, but they get nothing in return. They often call, text a man constantly, accept last-minute plans, and do everything to please him without any reciprocation. Men see these women as desperate and only like them for the attention they provide to them. If you find yourself initiating all contacts and getting delayed or no replies, it might be time to move on. The desperate girl is in a heart-wrenching position, giving her all and receiving nothing in return. This woman often finds herself stuck in a cycle of unreciprocated effort, where her love and care go unnoticed and unappreciated. If you ever felt like you're pouring from an empty cup, constantly giving but never getting anything back, you might be in this category. So let's look at the characteristic of the desperate girl. No one is born a desperate girl, but your actions will easily put you in that position. So if you find yourself exhibiting the characteristics that I'm about to talk about, then this is a wake-up call for you. The first characteristic is the constant initiator. The desperate girl is usually the one who initiates most, if not all, contact. She texts and makes plans, often without any enthusiasm or effort from the other side. Number 2, their effort is not reciprocated. This woman might cook, clean, buy gifts, and provide emotional support, yet they receive little or nothing in return. She often finds herself as a last resort, only contacted when the other person has no better options. Last-minute plans and late-night calls are the norm for the desperate girl. The next thing is low self-esteem. Her behavior often stems from a deep-seated feeling of low self-worth. She believes that by giving more, she will eventually be valued and appreciated. The next thing the desperate girl does is that she accepts minimal effort. So this woman will accept the bare minimum because she fears that asking for more will drive the other person away. She endures neglect and poor treatment, hoping things will change if she just holds on maybe a little longer. Men who hang around The desperate girl for a little bit are only there because of what they're getting. And because you are so available, it's a bit like wearing something in your wardrobe that you don't actually enjoy wearing, but hey ho, you end up wearing it, every now and again because it's available. And that's why they will not make any effort towards you, because you're always going to be there, regardless of how they treat you. The next thing I want to talk about is why women end up here. Why do they become desperate? Number one, the fear of being alone. This is usually a big thing. The desperate girl often has a profound fear of loneliness. She clings to anything that represents a relationship, believing that being with someone, even if they treat her poorly, is better than being alone. So whether it's toxic relationship, whether they are not a first choice or treated as unwanted, they rather have that relationship. The other thing is post-trauma. Previous experiences of neglect or emotional trauma can lead to this dynamic. If a woman has been conditioned to accept poor treatment in past relationship, she may subconsciously seek out similar situations. This is why it is so important for women to avoid abusive relationships at all costs. If they have young children witnessing it, because what's going to happen is when they grow up, there's a very high chance of following the very same steps. After all, their dad was always abusing their mom, and she stayed. So they don't actually see anything wrong with it. They are used to it, and that's very sad. The next thing that causes or may cause a woman to become desperate is low self-esteem. Women with low self-esteem often feel that they don't deserve better treatment. They may believe that they are lucky to have anyone's attention, even if it's minimal, negative, or toxic, whatever shape or form it comes in. This is why it's so important to train the girl child to be confident, to have high self-esteem and know what they're worth. Girls are growing with low self-esteem because they are begging other kids to play with them. So when they grow up, begging men to stay with them and tolerating nonsense from the other man is very normal. The next thing I want to talk about is misguided beliefs. There is a common yet flawed belief that if you give enough, the other person will eventually realize your worth and change. The desperate girl often holds on to this hope, despite evidence that this is not going to happen. We have seen women slave themselves for men, and they never got appreciated. So please don't deceive yourself, like literally just wake up. I want to plead with the fathers listening to me. Whether you are with the mother of the child or not, please, please, please teach your girl child what to accept and what not to accept from another man. Please don't leave the women alone to teach the girl some of these things. It is so important. The final point, some women are just interested in titles. I'm his girlfriend, I'm the missus. If you have the thought or you believe that you're actually incomplete without a man, you can easily fall into the desperate girl trap. Because at this point, anything goes. I'm not saying women should not be interested in relationships. Far from that. What I'm saying is that you need to be in a good relationship, but not as a desperate girl, period. Okay, so we have looked at characteristics of a desperate girl, but maybe you're like, I'm not really sure if I am a desperate girl yet, because maybe just two of the points that, I've mentioned applies to you. So I'm now going to talk about signs from the other person which might help you to know whether you are acting as a desperate girl or not. So the first sign that I'm going to talk about is delayed replies. If you initiate contact and receive delayed replies or none at all, it's a clear sign. If it's like, every now and again, but if it's constant, they're not prioritizing you. They're not too keen to get back to you. They'll probably get back to you when they've done everything else on their list and put you at the bottom. The next one is conditional attention. The other person only reaches out when they need something, be it a ride or a meal or even maybe physical gratification. but they never come to you when you need anything. Anytime you make a request or express a need, it becomes a problem. Asking for a date night or some quality time often will lead to arguments or excuses. Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to have this to do and I have that to do. And they're not making time for you, but they will make time for somebody else. The next thing is feeling unappreciated. If you're constantly feeling unappreciated and the value, like all the efforts and sacrifices that you're doing is taken for granted, then you should start realizing that you are in the desperate girl position. You don't need to be told. I don't need to confirm anything to you. It's there. You need to know at this point. If all that we've talked about is a bit unclear to you, then let's look at some practical examples or relatable sort of scenarios, situations, whatever you call it, that would let you know that you are in the desperate girl position. So the first scenario is the invisible caregiver. Consider the woman who tirelessly cooks, cleans, and cares for her partner only to be met with indifference. She prepares elaborate meals, but he barely acknowledges her effort. It's almost like, yeah, it's okay. You will do it. So the next thing is the unseen girlfriend. So you imagine a woman who's always available for her partner. She might cancel her plans to accommodate him, but he never makes any effort to include her in his plans. More often than not, keeping her as a secret, to be honest, from friends and family. When you provide emotional support to a man who only contacts you when they need to vent. So every time they come, it's almost like this happened in the office, that happened in the office, this happened on my way out, and they never really ask you about how your day has been or, whatever you are up to, or they just rant and rave about themselves and don't even care about how you're feeling. Even your girlfriends will ask you, after ranting and everything, they'll be like, anyway, how was your day? So he's not asking you, then there is a big question mark. Now let's look at the psychology behind this behavior. The psychology behind the desperate girl's behavior often involves deep-rooted insecurities and a lack of self-love. She may have experienced neglect in her childhood, like I talked about earlier, leading to a subconscious belief that she must earn love through her actions. This dynamic can also be reinforced by societal expectations, that kind of places a woman's worth on her ability to please and serve others. There are some, communities and some societies that actually believe in that. And the women are always found pushing beyond their boundaries. If you're giving and you're getting something back, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're giving and you're not getting anything back, then we need to break from that cycle. So the first step is really recognizing the pattern, acknowledging that you are in a one-sided dynamic is very crucial. We also need to love ourselves. Start practicing self-love and self-care. Women, we need to understand that we deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. You don't want to be a second option. Just literally escape from that place. We need to learn to set boundaries. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need and walk away if those needs are not met. So, I want to be able to spend quality time with you. It's not even a thing that people have to beg for. If you're in a relationship with somebody who truly loves you, you don't need to beg for that. Real men will respect your boundaries. If they don't, then I'm afraid they're not real men. If needed, consider talking to a therapist or a counselor, because for some people, if it's to do with trauma and things like that, you probably would need that support to be able to help to build your self-esteem. Surround yourself with people who value and appreciate you. Positive reinforcement from friends and family can actually help you to rebuild your self-worth, because they're going to be saying things to you that actually makes you realize what you're really worth and start rethinking your position as a desperate girl. Being the desperate girl is a painful and exhausting position or experience. However, understanding the dynamics and taking steps to change your mindset and behavior can help you break free from this cycle. Remember, you deserve to be loved and cherished. It's time to prioritize yourself and seek out relationships that uplift and value you. You are giving value, so you need to get value back. Until next time, it is adios. Bye-bye.